Gloria Gaither and her husband Bill were known as the soulful heart of church music. Now though, she's saying goodbye maybe to all of us as well as the stage, with a weak voice and tears in her eyes. What went on behind the scenes to make this sad goodbye possible? Why are fans all over the world getting ready for the saddest episode yet? Gloria Gaither has been more than just Bill Gaither's wife for a long time. Some of the most powerful Christian songs ever were written with her in mind. Gloria's deep faith and timeless words have touched people all over the world. She co-wrote many Gaither classics and gave many of their songs their artistic voice. But Gloria, who is 82 years old now, has sent a heartfelt message to her friends that marks a new part of her journey. Gloria looked very emotional in a new video shared by the Gaither music group. In it, she thanked fans for their love, prayers, and unwavering support over the years. There comes a time, she began, when you feel a soft pull on your heart like God is calling you to a calmer time. Gloria didn't say the words retirement, but she made it sound like she was stepping away from public outings and big events. In its place, she wants to spend more time with her family and focus on writing, thinking, and quiet times. Quite different from the many years of traveling, performing, and ministry. Before she became famous as a great songwriter and the leader of Southern gospel, Gloria Gaither was just Gloria Sickle. His family was very religious and had strong morals. He was born in Michigan on March 4, 1942. Being raised in a loving home that valued education, books, and music, Gloria showed early on that she was good at words and expression. She did well in school and loved poems, writing, and the arts. Gloria went to Anderson University, a small Christian college in Indiana, after high school to get a degree in English. That's where she not only grew intellectually, but also spiritually, which would later show up in every song she wrote. Gloria met a young, active music teacher named Bill Gaither while she was at Anderson. At first they worked together. Bill had already tried his hand at church music when he formed the Bill Gaither Trio with his brother and sister. It didn't take long for them to become close because they both loved faith and art. They became husband and wife in 1962, and their work together would forever change Christian music. Bill started making music full-time while Gloria kept teaching English at Alexandria High School. But Gloria's skill for writing lyrics and deep poetic understanding started to show up in the trio's songs. Bill wrote the tunes, and Gloria, who was very good at writing, brought them to life with powerful, heartfelt words that millions of people could relate to. Because He Lives, the song she wrote that became a big hit, was her big break. Written when things were rough in their lives, they were expecting their third child and the country was in a state of chaos. By the end of the 1960s, Gloria and Bill Gaither had what many Christians would have called an ideal life. They were married, had a young family, and used music to do service with all their hearts. On the inside, though, they were going through one of the hardest times of their lives in terms of mind and heart. The world was in a mess. There was a war going on in Vietnam. The civil rights movement shook the whole country. There were protests on college campuses, and traditional Christian values were being publicly questioned. The Gaithers were also dealing with their own doubts at the same time. Bill was tired from touring all the time, and the stress of his ministry, and Gloria, who was expecting their third child, was worried about what kind of world they would be bringing a kid into. They put their faith in God during this emotional storm, and something amazing happened. Gloria felt a wave of peace and fresh trust in God's promises as she prayed and looked for comfort. In that deep, quiet moment, the lyrics to Because He Lives began to come together. The words weren't written from a place of ease. They were made out of pain, fear, and a pressing need for hope, which is why they touched so many people so deeply. When it was made in 1971, the song quickly became a worldwide prayer for Christians who are going through hard times. It wasn't just a song, it meant putting your faith in a God who knows what will happen, even if the present seems unclear. Because He Lives was a big hit, which made the Gaithers and Gloria in particular more well-known. All of a sudden, she wasn't just the wife of a church singer or a writer who worked behind the scenes. People knew her as a deep religious voice and a poet whose words could move the heart and soul. Still, Gloria stayed grounded even as the attention got brighter. She kept writing a lot, not just songs but also devotionals, books, and personal essays that were full of wise words about faith, family, and purpose. She wrote more than 700 songs with Bill, and many of them are now heard in churches all over the world. But Gloria's voice may have been truly special because of how she mixed deep theology with real human emotion in her lyrics. She wasn't too proud to write. She wrote about real-life events like being a mother, working in the church, being sad and being happy. In the 1970s and 1980s, Gloria's influence and presence stayed strong, even as the Gaither vocal band became more well-known and the Homecoming video series began. Not often did she have a microphone in her hand, but her voice was in every song, prayer, and moving moment that touched people. During this time, she also became a good friend to younger Christian singers and a popular speaker at women's events. Because she was smart and had a calm, reflective style, she stood out in a field that was mostly men. It wasn't just what she wrote that made her special. It showed in how well she understood the soul, the struggles of daily life, and the hope that never fades that faith gives us. Gloria was the quiet power behind it all, writing, speaking, and ministering with unmatched grace and wisdom. The Gaither trio grew into the Gaither vocal band, and the Homecoming series became a huge hit. Fans look back on not only her gifts to gospel music, but also the amazing journey that took her from being a teacher in a small town to becoming a voice of faith through music. Gloria Gaither became even more of a quiet revolutionary in the world of church music as the 1970s and 1980s went on. There was a steady flow of Gloria's speech beneath their creative and spiritual legacy, even though her husband Bill was often the center of attention. It wasn't loud, but her impact was strong. Christians all over the world came to know and love the Gaither vocal band and later the Gaither Homecoming series. Their music was more than just a show, it was for service. The songs Gloria wrote had a depth and literary beauty that made them stand out in their field. In a field where cliches and repetition are common, Gloria's songs were full of deep theological thought, beautiful imagery, and honest feelings. She knew how to make theology personal, how to turn the big mysteries of God into lines that regular people could sing as they went through grief, joy, doubt, and faith. The way she added a sense of story to gospel music was one of her most important accomplishments. Gloria wrote more than just songs. She told stories about how people went from darkness to light, from hopelessness to hope, and from death to life again. Her songs had a literary weight that hit close to home. She understood the arc of redemption not only in the Bible but also in people's lives, and she put that knowledge into words that still move people today. Gloria was a voice for Christian women of all generations. In addition to her songs, she broke down some quiet hurdles at a time when few women had important theological or creative roles in Christian music. She didn't do a show when she wore glitter or shoes. It wasn't like she had to be the wife of a priest and sing backup. There were many sides to Gloria. She was smart, a mother, a thinker, and a spiritual leader. She wrote many devotionals, spiritual journals, and reflective essays. In many of them she looked at how faith, society, identity, and family all affect each other. Her works helped women deal with motherhood, ministry, and the everyday stresses of life. It was clear that she was having trouble. She didn't act like she knew everything, but she could help people find someone who did. She also left behind a lot of money to spend in the next generation. Gloria was very active in teaching and leading others to Christ. She helped to start the Gaither Family Resources Center and the Gaither Homecoming Bible. She gave younger gospel artists, especially women, a way to get noticed and help them grow. They looked up to her as a singer and as a person. In a world that cared more and more about fame and looks, Gloria stayed focused on what was important. "We never set out to be stars," she said one time. "That promise has made all the difference." Gloria Gaither wrote songs about deeply lived lives. She wasn't flashy and didn't try to get attention, but anyone who spent even a moment with her could feel the quiet gravity of her soul. Her faith wasn't something she did to show off. Gloria's biggest ministry was the way she showed up in everyday life. Friends say she was a good listener, thoughtful, and wise. She didn't fill silence with noise, she filled it with peace. In meetings she was the one who asked the deeper question. When things went wrong, she was the one who brought calm. As a wife she was very loyal. She and Bill were married for 60 years and were not only musical partners but also true soulmates. Their relationship had its ups and downs. Raising 3 kids on the road, running a big ministry, and meeting everyone's expectations were hard, But Gloria was always there for her kids. As a mother, she planned her days and cared for them. Even when she had a lot going on, she was always there for them. She wrote songs late at night after the kids were asleep, went for long walks, and had long talks. She taught them about Jesus and about kindness, honesty, and responsibility. In addition to artists, she also mentored writers, pastors, and thinkers, and many of them say that she changed the way they thought about their Christian calling. As a friend, she was loyal and wise, and as a woman of faith, Gloria Gaither was a link between the past and the future. She loved old hymns but wasn't afraid to ask tough questions. She stuck to biblical truth but also made room for complexity. Her faith wasn't afraid of nuance, it was strong enough to handle it. Her life became an example of how to live well, both in public and in private. She showed that success in ministry isn't measured by fame but by faithfulness. That a song is only as powerful as the person who wrote it, and that being a servant is the truest form of greatness. As Gloria steps away from the spotlight, she leaves behind more than a catalog of beloved hymns. She leaves behind a legacy of wisdom, grace, and strength. Her songs will be sung in churches, at funerals, in quiet hospital rooms, and at happy family gatherings for years to come. But maybe even more importantly, she set a great example for men and women who want to live meaningful, humble, and faith-filled lives. In the words she gave us, it seems right to let her own lyrics echo in this moment of goodbye. God sent His Son, and they called Him Jesus. He came to love, heal, and forgive. He lived and died. Gloria Gaither is famous for her spiritual depth and beautiful lyrics, but her family has always been her first ministry. Behind every concert, song, and book, there was always home full of faith, laughter, and long conversations. She and Bill Gaither had 3 kids, Suzanne, Amy, and Benjamin. All 3 were affected by their parents' ministry, but Gloria's steady hand and caring heart had a different effect on each of them. Suzanne Gaither Jennings, the oldest, has been involved in the Gaither business and ministry for a long time. She works behind the scenes with her parents. Suzanne helped her mother run the Gaither family's money and wrote a number of songs with her, including some well-known homecoming hits. Suzanne Gaither is more than just a collaborator. She has carried the Gaither vision into the next generation by combining business sense with a deep respect for their musical and spiritual legacy. Amy Gaither Hayes, the middle child, went her own creative path. She is a poet, actress, and teacher, and she got her love of language and literature from her mother. In interviews, she has been honest about how intellectually rich her childhood was, and how dinner talks were often about religion, art, and other interesting things. She once said, "Mom didn't just want us to be good Christians. She told us to think, to question, and to figure out why we believed what we did." Benjamin Gaither, the youngest, became a musician like his father. He is a producer and singer who co-founded Live-Orn Media and has worked closely with his parents on many homecoming projects. His music is more modern, but it is still based on truth, family, and faith. All 3 of her children hold their mother in high regard, both as a parent and as a role model. They talk about how patient she was during the busy years of touring, how she would write late at night after putting them to bed, and how she would turn everyday events into spiritual lessons. Family vacations weren't expensive, but they were sacred, and time spent together was protected. Gloria never put her family second, even when the demands of ministry got tough. When she told her family a few months ago that she wanted to slow down, they were thankful and emotional. They have always known her as a strong, steady presence who kept things together when life on the road got crazy. Now that she's taking a step back from the spotlight, her children and grandchildren are rallying around her and respecting her wish for a quieter season. They've made it clear that Gloria Gaither's legacy doesn't end here, it just changes. Her wisdom will continue to reach people in new ways through books, re-released music, and old writings. Bill Gaither talked about his wife's choice in a recent interview. He said, "Gloria has given so much for over 60 years. She's poured herself into the church, into our family, and into the world through her words. I think it's time she rests right in peace, holds her grandchildren, walks in the garden, and listens instead of always speaking. They have earned that. Their grandchildren, who are now teens and young adults, have also said they appreciate her being there. Some of them have written on social media that Nana was their favorite storyteller and that she always had a journal in her lap and a story in her heart. They say she was curious, wise, and full of grace. Fans all over the world were moved by Gloria's message of taking a step back, which she sent through a simple video and a few heartfelt words. Her farewell video on YouTube had thousands of comments, many of which were emotional tributes. Her songs helped me get through cancer. I found Christ through the Gaither homecoming tapes, and Gloria's words always made me cry. Every birthday, my mom played Because He Lives. She's gone now, but Gloria's words still bring her close. In honor of her contributions, churches all over the US and the world have held special services. Radio stations have played tributes to Gloria Gaither for hours on end, and some fans have even made videos where they share how her songs have changed their lives. What's amazing is how personal the response has been. Gloria Gaither never wanted to be famous, but her honesty made people feel like they knew her. Her hymns are still played every day in nursing homes and prison chapels, and her words live on in framed sheet music and worn CDs in quiet living rooms. Fans are taking a collective breath of relief as they say goodbye to her public presence, not her life. She hasn't said this is the end, she's just said it's time to listen more than speak and rest more than strive. By doing this, she continues to teach by example. As her fans and family say goodbye to her presence on stage, they hold tight to the presence she built in their lives. A heritage that isn't written in lights but in songs, and that isn't carved in stone but in people's hearts.